Hello from Safonovo. This is a podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about falsification, and let's start with the definition.
Falsification is an action when you try to get something which is not truly made as original. For example, falsification could be made for food, for something like people wear on themselves, or even it could be fraud in researches.
Well, we may look first at the goal of the falsification, what might be the purpose. So usually, let's say, like whether it's a business, whether it's personal relationship, or whether it's like a certain projects, for which circumstances we need to probably, like invert the reality in order to present certain results or facts or any other artifacts in order to achieve our goals.
I will give an example from earliest 90s. It was 1991, and I was working for Motorola, and there were two guys which bring in Kiev on cathedral when I was working, so-called, I don't know how to say, it's seems to be like motherboard, but not the main one. Huge plate which would be installed, and it would work as a conveyor of processors. They were called transputers, and we were making some experiments, and we were writing some algorithms, parallel one, and suddenly we get not the best result which we expected. And it was a request from one senior engineer, could we manage to do something with digits? It was if I will try to make direct translation from Russian, something like this: can you twist with digits to find out how to make them more pretty? And I told him, no, it's not possible, because it's computer science, and better not to do this in this way. When we will have version 2, we will work without falsification. And this person is very offended. He was saying, no, I'm thinking about product. I don't want to be mentioned that I am not trustworthy. You're making everything wrong. You should write what you think, but I will say to my direct boss that everything goes as I was predicted. And I was saying, yes, you could do it, but sometime you will be discovered, and it will goes bad. And third time, I have been working to China's company, and we were making some investigation because there were some poison in the mineral water. That was production line which was installed from German company, and they was very proud about their filters. But you know what's happened? Some of the Chinese workers, they were working on the ground, and then on the same boot, they were going on the surface of the filter, and this filter, I don't know, it was soaking with cyanide. It's almost unbelievable, and this water turns to be poison or poisoned. And laboratory were people from lab geeks were refusing to give report because they were saying, if we will release this report, everyone in China wouldn't drink your water. So we were talking with German company how to replace this filter, and the German guy told me, this was a mistake from Chinese workers, and it is not insurance case. So you should make some falsification to make it look like an insurance case. And we were forced to make some kind of falsification.
Well, since we were speaking about Chinese, well, I do believe in the in the art of war, usually, not usually, but like commonly, what they say is actually the art of deceiving. It could be, like something that could let one of the warlords to leave to get the victory. So maybe in the falsification, you also might be, we might be using some sort of like a stratagems in order to, get what we want. For example, we probably could, let's say, get certain falsificated fact and maybe mix it with a more or less trustworthy, or maybe we actually, put something that is, really falsificated to be very visible, so no one would even open this, like no one would turn this rock. So whether, let's say, we on the side who we just actually do believe they do true things or good thing, we want to falsificate something and let something come through. So what kind of things we could put from, I would say, like a Chinese in order to, like make sure it will pass over?
It was like 2 years after case I already discovered with you with Motorola. It was IT company, and this was before IT Radon video cards, and they asked me if I could think out something with their drivers. It was very funny. It was a test. I don't remember the name, but a test would show how fast is video card. Maybe after 5 or 10 years, it became a lot of different programs which will show you some special created scene with people, with trees, and it was rotating in different angles with sun, with moon, and it was tracing of the beams. But previously there were very simple programs, and one of them would show, I don't know how to say, but it is like cycle of the colors. And suddenly it was discovered that IT new cards, which has already produced by the Chinese factories, they do some terrible mistake. Everything is working good. It was before Windows, and this video cards would work with all the games, like Wolfenstein, like Duke Nukem, like Doom 2, like Quake 1, like Heretic, Catacombs of Abyssine, and so on. But suddenly, on this test, it was terrible mistake. This row would make as usual, and then huge black gap, like a hole. And what's most terrible was this gap was on different place on each test. So it was something with speed of drawing these points, and I was asked to do if I could, and I created falsification. I was trying to use some artificial intelligence methods to cover it up, and I made this black holes, blind spot, completely disappeared, but it was made not truly. And it was very funny because I use the method I discovered from biology book. I was reading some book about computer vision and something like this, and suddenly it was a passage. I was completely astonished. It was something like this. There is an animal which called rhino. It's okay to say rhino?
Rhino.
When you see rhino and you see his eyes, those eyes quite close to his horn. But if you would be rhino, you wouldn't see your horn. And it was a question from the author. Can you please right now to look on the end of your nose? Do you see it by one of your eyes? Eye, yes, you see. And other, yes, you see. But usually you didn't see. And this author was writing, if you want to be honest, you will just see just huge rounds by each of your eye, and all other would be reconstructed. And with this goal, I was using this method, how to reconstruct vision of the rhino to make falsification for a T to pass those tests.
Well, it's funny enough because sometimes, yes, like people or even the nature could come up with some of those things that we definitely will pass over. Now let's actually jump over to another side. The side is actually would receive false data. For example, if we do suspect or expect that there will be something that is definitely changed, so how we should behave. And maybe one of the examples was when I was doing KYC, and there was like a little project, it did not came through, but I was thinking, okay, if we do KYC for one person, we take the camera, but maybe there is a little chance that the moment person steps into the camera and the moment they already took a photo, we still should be shooting, so that we should capture, like something else, like maybe there is something else happening. And exactly for this reason, I also, like every time there is a phone call from some another person, when I would say bye, I still would hold the line just to maybe see some like artifacts that could be falsified as well. So if, let's say, we on the side of the sentinels, of the guardians who just try not to pass it through, what kind of measures or frameworks we should implement in order to get the true data?
You should use as many methods of control as you could. By the way, Sentinel, it was the name of first virus I ever kept and could cure. What's the translation for Sentinel?
Страж.
Страж. Sentinel is страж, yes?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so for example, if you work for military, for defense office, or maybe for security service, you should use as many layers of the information checking as you could. You know, I have in 2003 year, I created a so-called strategy for economic security service for Alpha Bank Moscow, and it was built for several steps. It's multi-dimensional cube, and I was saying, if you think that someone would come up to try to make a breach, to make a false document, to try to produce fraud and something like this, you should understand that some cases or some areas should be closed forever and never be reopened. For example, some computers would not be not in the internet, and for example, some computer would be owned by just one person. You know, it was time when personal computers were not exactly personal. So for example, 2-3 people would work on the same computer, for example, like cashiers in the shop, and we were thinking how to make this possible. Sometimes it was like kind of fraud when I would come, for example, for your daily break, and I would try to work on your computer because it was lack of the internet. And sometimes it would be, for example, porno sites or maybe opposition newspapers and so on. And after, some people will get some trouble because they were recognized as people who are not надежны, trustworthy, yes?
Trustworthy. And let's say when we work with the falsification and there is a certain circumstances, let's say, like working as a consultants or as a troubleshooters, sometimes we also need to, like, as I said, get data through, but there is also might be a moral aspect, because at certain point of time, and I do remember that, because again, like I put this like a mark on this, you said that the honesty is not a competence. I mean, it's the quality, it's a threat, but it might be a competence. But at certain point of time, we might be seeing the dilemma, literally, like whether we bend the truth or whether we not. Maybe there's like another way. It's like maybe there is a way to not to make a decision. So what should be framework for those who seeing this choice and actually need to make a decision to falsificate or not?
You know, it depends from your goal. And one friend of mine, when I was learning psychology, he was writing dissertation, and this theme was something like double-minded people who work for government, and he was writing about custom officers. For example, you would try to smuggle something in the country, and if you will try to bribe the officer, he will close the eyes, put some money in the pocket, and he will say, okay, this money would be quite helpful for my family, and your crime is not so big, okay, do it. But if you will not pay, he will say, oh, you're damaging country, to your people, and something like this. It is the right way to go to the cage, to the prison. And he was trying to discover how big is the bribe, how big is the fish, which should be presented to people to close their eyes. And he found that it's also depends from mood, from day of the time, from day of the month, and something like this. But in all other cases, suddenly I find that the sum is quite low. It was like 1,098 or 99, and the sum which would be enough to bribe custom officer was like $17. And you know what happened next? This officer would falsificate some papers to make you looking clean. So I found that sometimes it's better to give a bribe, even not because you want to smuggle, but because you will be under the supervision.
Well, yeah, sometimes using the fast track could be some sort of like an efficient way. Then my last question will be, how knowing about falsification would help to make this world a better place?
You know, there are a lot of kind of falsification, some of them good, some of them bad. For example, white one would be that some machine parts produced in China on the same plant, but partly they would go to Range Rover and partly they will go to BMW. And if you will buy something which is cheaper, you will get almost the same. But sometimes you will say, see, for example, in the Egypt, in the Turkey, in the I couldn't remember Bali, but maybe in some Indonesia, you will see that Louis Vuitton bags would be sold for like $50, and it is looking like to be Louis Vuitton, but definitely it is not. So it's also about you. You want to have the thing because you respect the quality and you think that is worth their money, or you just want to show the dust to the people's eyes. So it's your choice.
And we review the skill of falsification and how it could be helpful for you. Stay in peace.